Today we're going to be looking at how to subtract decimals. And as you can see here, there's a couple questions that we're going to work through together to make sure that at the end of this video, you understand the steps involved whenever we're subtracting decimals. So in question number one, we're being asked to subtract 11 and 6 tenths from 17 and 43 hundredths. So looking at our steps on the right-hand side here, the very first thing that we're going to do is we're going to rewrite this question vertically. And in brackets, you'll see the term stacked decimals. And what we mean by stacked decimals is that when we're rewriting this question vertically, we want to make sure that the decimals are aligning properly so they're on top of one another. And the reasoning for that is because that allows us to make sure that all the place values are going to be within their right place. So the first thing we're going to do, because in question number one, we have two decimals, is we're going to make two decimal points down below. So we have 1 and 2. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to add the numbers from the question down below. So we have 17 and 43 hundredths. And for our second number, we have 11 and 6 tenths. So now we're going to go ahead and add our subtraction bar here. So now we can move on to step number 2, which is to add placeholders. And in brackets, we have zeros. And what we mean by this is, if you look at this question right now, you'll notice that we're missing a number here. There's nothing in the hundredths place for 11 and 6 tenths. So in order for us to actually go through and subtract here, we need to add a number here to that spot. And you'll remember that any time that we add a number to the right of a number that's a decimal, it doesn't change the value of that decimal. This decimal here, 11 and 6 tenths, is still going to have the same value if we put a 0 to the right of the 6. So in order for us to solve this, we're going to add our placeholder of 0 into the hundredths place. So the next thing that we're going to do before we start subtracting here is we're going to drop our decimal point down. And the reasoning for this is because in our answer, the decimal point is not going to change its location. It's still going to be in the same spot. So we're just going to go ahead and put a decimal point right in line with our other two decimals. So now we can go ahead and start subtracting here. So we're going to start with our hundredths place, and 3 minus 0 gives us 3. 4 minus 6 we can't quite do, so we're going to have to borrow from the ones place. So we're going to cross out the 7 and write a 6 up above, and next we're going to add the 1. So now we have 14 minus 6, which we know gives us 8. And now we're going to subtract 6 and 1, which is going to give us 5, and 1 minus 1 gives us 0. So when we subtract 11 and 6 tenths from 17 and 43 hundredths, we get 5 and 83 hundredths. So now looking at question number 2 here, we're being asked to subtract 13 and 32 hundredths from 27 and 566 thousandths. So remember that the first step here is that we're going to rewrite the question vertically and remembering the stacked decimals. So we're going to make sure that our decimals are aligning properly here. And again, we have two decimals here. So we're going to go ahead and just write 2 decimal points down below. And next, we're going to go ahead and add in our numbers here. So the first number here is 27 566 thousandth. The second number here is 13 and 32 hundredths. So we'll go ahead and write all that in, and we'll go and add our subtraction bar in there. So now for step number 2, you'll remember that we're adding our placeholders here because we can't subtract this problem as is. So we'll go ahead and add our 0 here to the thousandths place because we know that it doesn't change the value of the decimal. And step number 3, we're going to drop the decimal point down into our answer because that's not going to change its location when we actually solve this. And lastly, step number 4, we can go ahead and start subtracting. So in the thousandths place, 6 minus 0 gives us 6. 6 minus 2 gives us 4. 5 minus 3 gives us 2. 7 minus 3 gives us 4. And 2 minus 1 gives us 1. So when we subtract 13 and 32 hundredths from 27 and 566 thousandths, we get 14 and 246 thousandths. So I hope this video has helped you to understand how to subtract decimals. Thanks again for watching, and please don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons down below to see more content just like this. As always, enjoy today's math lesson.